I'm Paul Cole, 34 years old, and for most of my life, my family treated me like I was chasing clouds. When are you going to get serious? My mother would snap across the dinner table, her fork clicking against her plate like a judge's gavel. My older brother, Theo, always had the perfect comeback ready. Maybe when he stops playing with splinters, he'd say, and everyone would laugh except me. They thought my carpentry work was a joke, something I'd outgrow like a teenager's bad haircut. What they didn't know was that I'd built something they couldn't imagine. My small workshop in rural Oregon had turned into Forge and Grain, a custom furniture company worth over $3 million with clients from Seattle to San Diego. I kept it secret because I was tired of their endless comparisons and judgment. But everything changed at Theo's architecture gala, where my work became the centerpiece nobody expected. Have you ever been dismissed by the people who should believe in you most? Hit that like button and stick around, because what happened next left my family completely speechless and changed everything forever. Growing up in the suburbs of Portland, success in my family meant one thing: prestige and professional recognition. My mother, Victoria Cole, spent 30 years as a corporate attorney before retirement, building her reputation case by case. She wore her achievements like armor, constantly reminding us that status and reputation mattered above everything else. Reputation opens doors that talent alone never will. She'd lecture over breakfast, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed the morning newspaper. My brother Theo, 5 years older than me, followed her blueprint perfectly. He graduated top of his class from architecture school and started his own firm by 28, impressing everyone with his drive. Every family gathering became his personal award ceremony, with Mom recounting his latest achievements to anyone within earshot. Meanwhile, I was the kid who preferred building birdhouses in the backyard to studying law books and business journals. Dad, Kenneth Cole, worked as a civil engineer but never defended me when Mom launched her criticisms. He'd just nod along, his silence somehow louder and more painful than her actual words. The only person who understood was my Uncle Ray, my dad's younger brother and a retired shop teacher who'd spent 40 years teaching kids the value of craftsmanship. Uncle Ray saw something in me nobody else did, a spark they all dismissed. When I was 12, he took me to his garage workshop for the first time. The smell of cedar and pine filled my lungs like fresh air after being underwater for too long. "Would tell stories," he said, running his weathered hand along a plank of oak, his fingers tracing the grain patterns. "You just have to learn how to listen." He taught me how to sand with the grain, how to measure twice and cut once, how to feel when a joint was right just by the resistance of the pieces. Those Saturday afternoons became my escape from Mom's lectures about my mediocre grades and Theo's constant shadow looming over everything I did. At 14, I built my first table, a simple pine desk for my bedroom. It wobbled slightly on uneven legs, but Uncle Ray smiled like I'd crafted a throne for royalty. "That's honest work, Paul," he told me, gripping my shoulder firmly. "Don't let anyone tell you differently." High school was rough in ways I still remember clearly. While Theo collected scholarships and college acceptance letters like trophies, I barely scraped through with average marks that disappointed everyone. Mom made her feelings crystal clear at every opportunity. "You're wasting your potential," she'd say during family dinners, her eyes fixed on me like a prosecutor cornering a guilty witness. Theo would smirk from across the table, enjoying my discomfort. "Maybe college isn't for everyone, Mom. Someone's got to fix broken chairs, right?" The laughter that followed felt like needles pressing into my chest. Dad would shift uncomfortably in his seat, but never intervened or spoke up for me. Only Uncle Ray defended me when he was around. "The boy's got real talent with his hands," he'd argue, but Mom would wave him off dismissively. "Talent doesn't pay mortgages, Ray. He needs something stable and respectable." I spent those years in Uncle Ray's workshop after school, learning dovetail joints and mortise techniques, while my classmates prepared applications for big universities. I watched them leave for prestigious schools while I enrolled in community college, studying basic business alongside woodworking courses at a local trade school that nobody in my family took seriously. At 19, I started taking small jobs through Uncle Ray's extensive connections in the community. I repaired dining chairs for neighbors, built shelves for local shops, and crafted custom frames for an art gallery downtown that appreciated handmade quality. The work was simple and didn't pay much, but each piece taught me something new about wood and technique. One client, an elderly woman named Mrs. Patterson, commissioned a jewelry box for her granddaughter's 16th birthday. I spent 3 weeks selecting the perfect walnut, carving delicate roses into the lid with tiny chisels, and finishing it with hand-rubbed oil that brought out the wood's natural depth. When I delivered it to her small house, tears filled her eyes as she opened the hinged top. "This is more beautiful than I ever imagined," she whispered, touching the carved petals gently. That moment hooked me deeper than anything academic ever could. I wasn't just making furniture for function. I was creating memories, building pieces that would outlive all of us and carry stories forward through generations. At family gatherings, Mom would ask what I was doing with my time. "Just some woodwork," I'd mumble, keeping it intentionally vague. She'd sigh dramatically, shaking her head. "You need stability, Paul. This hobby won't support a family or a future." Everything shifted when I turned 23 and my path suddenly became clearer. Uncle Ray introduced me to Helena Ross, a furniture maker in her 60s who ran a highly respected workshop in Eugene, about 2 hours south. She'd built custom pieces for wealthy clients across the entire Pacific Northwest for 40 years, earning a reputation for uncompromising quality. "You've got raw skill," she told me after examining my portfolio carefully, her sharp eyes missing absolutely nothing. "But skill without discipline and knowledge is just wasted motion and squandered potential." I became her apprentice, driving 2 hours each way 3 times a week, no matter the weather or how tired I felt. Helena was demanding in ways that pushed me harder than anyone ever had, rejecting pieces I thought were perfect and making me start completely over from scratch. "Good enough isn't good enough in this business," she'd say firmly, pointing out invisible flaws in my joinery that I'd somehow missed. She taught me about wood selection, how different species aged and responded to humidity, how to design pieces that balanced beauty with structural function. Under her patient but exacting guidance, my work transformed from decent amateur pieces to exceptional professional craftsmanship that could compete with anyone. That hotel project opened doors I didn't even know existed in the industry. The owner posted detailed photos on social media platforms, and suddenly my phone buzzed constantly with inquiries from new clients. A trendy cafe in Portland wanted custom countertops with live edges. A successful lawyer needed built-in bookshelves for his home office that would hold his extensive collection. A young couple commissioned a dining table for their first house, something special to mark the occasion. I was 25 and working 16-hour days regularly, loving every exhausting minute despite the physical toll. Helena encouraged me to formalize my business operations properly. "Stop treating this like a side hustle," she insisted during one of our planning meetings. I registered Forge and Grain officially with the state, rented a small workshop space near the industrial district, and created a basic website showcasing my best work with professional photographs. My family remained completely oblivious to my growing success and reputation. At a cousin's wedding reception, Mom introduced me to guests as still finding his way in life, while Theo talked endlessly about his architecture firm's latest commercial project for a downtown development. I smiled politely, knowing my revenue that year had already matched his impressive salary, but I kept quiet about it. Their years of judgment had taught me to guard my wins carefully. By 27, Forge and Grain had become something genuinely special in the local woodworking community. I'd hired 2 skilled craftsmen, both older guys with decades of experience who appreciated traditional techniques over shortcuts. We worked together in a renovated barn outside Portland, surrounded by carefully organized stacks of hardwood and the constant hum of saws and sanders. My specialty became live-edge tables, pieces that preserve the natural edge of the wood, celebrating its organic imperfections instead of hiding them. These weren't cheap commodity items sold in furniture stores. A single dining table could cost $8,000 or more, and clients waited months for completion without complaint. Word spread steadily through interior designers and wealthy homeowners who wanted unique, handcrafted furniture that told stories. Helena connected me with a talented designer in Seattle named Iris Chun who specialized in high-end residential projects for tech executives and entrepreneurs. She ordered 6 pieces for a tech executive's mountain retreat, then enthusiastically recommended me to 5 other clients in her network. My business exploded almost overnight. At 29, I bought the barn property outright and expanded the workshop significantly, adding proper ventilation and better lighting. My personal income had crossed six figures annually, but at family dinners, I was still just Paul the carpenter who hadn't found his real path yet. The secrecy ate at me sometimes during quiet moments alone. I wanted desperately to tell them the truth, to watch their faces transform when they learned what I'd actually built. But I remembered every snide comment, every dismissive laugh, every single time they'd made me feel worthless and small. At a holiday party when I was 30, Theo cornered me in the kitchen while I grabbed a beer. "Mom's genuinely worried about you," he said, refilling his wine glass from an expensive bottle. "You're in your 30s now with no real career path or retirement plan. My firm's always hiring project managers if you want something stable and respectable." His concern felt like pity wrapped carefully in condescension. I forced a smile, gripping my beer bottle tighter. "I'm doing fine, Theo. Really, everything's good." He patted my shoulder in that annoying older brother way. "If you say so, little brother. Just don't wait too long to get serious." That night, I lay awake in my small apartment, staring at the ceiling and wondering if revealing my success would actually change anything or just give them new ways to diminish what I'd accomplished. Helena noticed my growing frustration during a planning session the following week. "Why do you care so much what they think?" she asked bluntly. I shrugged, unable to fully articulate it. "They're family. That's supposed to matter." She shook her head firmly. "Family should be your biggest cheerleaders, not your harshest critics who tear you down." At 32, an opportunity arrived that would change everything about my business trajectory. Iris introduced me to a venture investor named Omar Williams who specialized in artisan brands with growth potential. He visited my workshop on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, examined my pieces carefully, and asked detailed, intelligent questions about my process and business model. "You're sitting on something genuinely valuable here," Omar said, running his experienced hand along a cherry credenza I'd just finished. "But you're thinking too small, too locally. This could be a recognized national brand." He proposed a strategic partnership, his investment capital and business expertise combined with my craftsmanship and creative vision. We'd scale production intelligently without sacrificing the quality that made us special, open a proper showroom in a high-traffic area, and target luxury markets across the entire West Coast systematically. The deal would value Forge and Grain at $3 million, a number that seemed almost impossible. I was genuinely stunned, standing there in sawdust-covered work boots. My hobby had become worth more than most people earned in an entire lifetime. We shook hands that afternoon, sealing the partnership. Within months, we'd moved operations into a much larger facility in Portland's industrial district, hired 8 more skilled craftsmen through careful recruitment, and launched a sophisticated marketing campaign highlighting the story and craftsmanship behind each unique piece. By 33, Forge and Grain had become a recognized name in luxury furniture circles throughout the region. Magazine features and design publications called me Oregon's master craftsman and profiled my journey. Interior designers from California to Vancouver specifically requested my work for their high-end projects. Corporate clients ordered custom conference tables and executive desks for their headquarters. Despite this remarkable success, I still hadn't told my family anything about it. The thought of their reaction paralyzed me in ways I couldn't fully explain. Would they finally respect my work and apologize, or would they find new ways to belittle it as luck or timing? Then fate intervened in the most ironic way possible. Theo called one evening in early spring, his voice unusually excited. "Hey Paul, my firm's hosting our annual architecture showcase gala next month. It's a huge deal for us, tons of industry people and potential clients. We need some help with setup, moving furniture and stuff around the venue. You interested in making some extra cash?" I nearly laughed out loud at the absurd irony. His firm had hired Forge and Grain through Iris's design company to provide all the custom furniture for the prestigious event. Theo had absolutely no idea. "Sure," I said, carefully keeping my voice neutral and casual. "I can definitely help with that." The weeks before the gala were intensely busy but thrilling. Iris and I designed 12 custom pieces specifically for the venue, each one showcasing different aspects of our capabilities. Cocktail tables, a stunning reception desk, elegant display pedestals, and a massive boardroom table as the dramatic centerpiece. Each piece showcased different advanced techniques and premium wood species, from burled maple to black walnut to reclaimed Douglas fir. I personally oversaw every single detail, knowing my family would see this work up close. My team delivered everything 2 days before the event in our branded truck. I drove it myself, directing careful placement in the downtown venue's elegant space. Theo's business partner, a sharp, professional woman named Claire, supervised the setup process closely. "These pieces are absolutely incredible," she gushed enthusiastically, examining the precise joinery on a side table with her trained eye. "Whoever crafted these is seriously talented. We need to use them for future projects." I smiled, carefully adjusting the table's position. Just doing our job properly. She didn't recognize me as Theo's younger brother at all. We'd only met once years ago at a family gathering, and I'd changed significantly since then, more confident and filled out. The irony was absolutely delicious. The day before the gala, I visited Mom's house for a regular family dinner she'd insisted on. She was in full form, discussing Theo's big night with obvious maternal pride. 300 guests confirmed, she announced proudly, setting down plates with her usual precision. Potential clients worth millions in combined revenue. This showcase could really make his firm's reputation. Dad nodded approvingly from his seat. Theo's worked incredibly hard for this opportunity. It's well-deserved. My brother arrived late as usual, loosening his tie dramatically. "Crazy week at the office," he sighed, collapsing into his chair. "But everything's finally coming together perfectly. The venue looks absolutely amazing. The furniture we commissioned is absolutely stunning. Really museum-quality stuff." I kept my face carefully neutral, cutting my chicken slowly. "That's great, Theo. Sounds like a real success." Mom beamed at him with unconcealed pride. "You've built something truly impressive, sweetheart. Not everyone has that kind of drive and vision." The unspoken comparison to me hung in the air like thick smoke. I took a long drink of water, swallowing both the liquid and my pride simultaneously. Tomorrow night would rewrite everything between us. I just had to wait a little longer and trust the plan. Uncle Ray, sitting quietly beside me, caught my eye across the table and winked knowingly. He knew something big was coming. The gala evening arrived cool and clear, perfect weather for the outdoor reception area. I dressed carefully in a tailored charcoal suit, very different from my usual workshop clothes of jeans and flannel. The venue buzzed with Portland's architecture and design elite. Everyone dressed impressively to see and be seen. Theo worked the room like a seasoned politician, Mom and Dad beside him, absolutely glowing with reflected pride. I slipped in quietly through a side entrance, finding Uncle Ray near the bar nursing a whiskey. "Ready for the show?" he whispered, grinning like a kid with a wonderful secret. The space looked absolutely incredible under the carefully designed lighting. My furniture pieces anchored every area, their clean lines and natural beauty elevating the entire aesthetic significantly. Guests touched the wood reverently, admiring the obvious craftsmanship and quality. I overheard multiple conversations about that amazing live-edge table, and whoever designed these pieces has serious talent. Theo passed by where I stood, barely glancing my way in his distraction. "Oh hey, Paul. Glad you could make it to support me. Pretty impressive setup, right?" Everything came together perfectly. I nodded agreement. "Really impressive work." He moved on quickly, oblivious to everything, schmoozing enthusiastically with potential clients and shaking hands. Midway through the evening, after dinner service concluded, Iris took the stage to thank contributors and sponsors. My heart pounded hard against my ribs as she began her carefully prepared speech. "Tonight's success belongs to many talented people who contributed," she said, her clear voice carrying through the excellent sound system. "But I want to especially acknowledge the furniture that's made this space so uniquely special and beautiful. Every single piece you see here was custom crafted by Forge and Grain, led by their founder and master craftsman, Paul Cole." A bright spotlight swung toward where I stood near the back. The room erupted in genuine applause. I stood slowly, every eye turning in my direction simultaneously. Mom's face drained completely of color. Dad's mouth fell open in shock. Theo froze mid-conversation with a client, his wine glass tilted at a dangerous angle. The recognition dawning on their faces was absolutely priceless. Iris continued, describing my company's impressive growth and solid reputation in the industry. She mentioned the $3 million valuation, the national clients waiting months for pieces, the waiting lists for custom commissions. The applause grew even louder, more enthusiastic. I walked steadily to the stage, shook Iris's hand warmly, and faced the crowd of successful people. "Thank you for your extremely kind words," I said into the microphone, keeping my voice steady despite my pulse racing wildly. Forge and Grain started in a small workshop 13 years ago with just me and some borrowed tools. Every piece we create represents hundreds of hours of careful work, from selecting the perfect board to applying the final finish coat. We believe furniture should tell meaningful stories and last for generations. I paused deliberately, looking directly at my frozen family. I'm grateful to everyone who believed in this journey from the beginning, especially those who saw real potential when others saw just a passing hobby. The audience applauded enthusiastically again. I stepped down from the stage, immediately surrounded by guests wanting to discuss potential commissions and future collaborations. Business cards appeared from every direction, pressed into my hands. Through the crowd, I saw Mom, Dad, and Theo standing completely motionless near the bar, their faces showing a mixture of profound shock and something else I couldn't quite name. Uncle Ray pushed through the throng to hug me tightly. "That's my nephew," he said loudly enough for nearby people to hear, pure pride radiating from him. The moment felt surreal, like watching my life from outside my body. The rest of the evening passed in an overwhelming blur of congratulations and serious networking. I avoided my immediate family deliberately, focusing entirely on the genuine connections being made with potential clients. Claire, Theo's business partner, apologized profusely for not recognizing me during the setup days. "I feel like a complete idiot," she laughed, shaking her head. "You were literally installing your own furniture, and I had no idea who you were." As guests departed into the cool night, reality settled in heavily. My family now knew everything I'd carefully hidden for years. There was absolutely no taking it back, no pretending or downplaying anymore. I found Theo near the coat check area, his earlier confidence completely deflated. "Why didn't you tell us?" he asked, his voice tight with something between anger and hurt. I met his eyes steadily. "Would you have believed me? Or would you have found new, creative ways to call it just a hobby?" He visibly flinched at my words. Mom appeared suddenly, her lawyer face firmly in place, that professional mask she wore. "This is quite a surprise, Paul." Her tone was carefully controlled, almost cold and distant. "Indeed," I replied simply, matching her formal tone exactly. We stood in uncomfortable silence. They left without much real conversation, the shock still too fresh and overwhelming to process. I helped my team load equipment into our truck, then sat alone in the empty venue, processing everything that had just happened. The truth was finally out there, exposed to everyone. But instead of the relief I'd expected, I felt strangely hollow inside. I'd spent so long imagining this exact moment, building toward it in my mind, and now that it had actually arrived, the victory felt somehow incomplete. Uncle Ray found me sitting quietly on one of my own benches near the windows. "You okay, kid?" he asked gently, sitting beside me. I shrugged, uncertain how to articulate it. I thought I'd feel different. Triumphant, maybe vindicated. Instead, I just feel tired and empty. He nodded knowingly. "That's because revenge isn't as satisfying as we imagine when we're hurt. You didn't do this to prove them wrong, Paul. You did it because you genuinely love the work itself." His words hit home hard, penetrating my confusion. He was absolutely right. My success wasn't really about my family's approval at all. It never had been, not truly. That realization brought more genuine peace than any public vindication possibly could. A week passed in complete silence from my family. Then Mom called unexpectedly. "Paul, darling, do you have some time for coffee?" Her voice had a sweetness I hadn't heard in years, artificial and obviously strained. We met at a downtown cafe near her lawyer's office. She spent 10 careful minutes on meaningless small talk before finally getting to her real point. "I'm renovating the house, updating the kitchen and living room completely. I'd love to incorporate some custom pieces from your company. Maybe a dining table? I thought you could design something really special for us, for the family." I sipped my coffee slowly, watching her perform this act. Theo sent an email the very same day with the subject line "Collaboration Opportunity," in bold. He proposed combining our businesses strategically, his architectural design paired with my furniture, positioning it as mutually beneficial for both firms. The requests kept coming steadily. Dad mentioned needing new office furniture for his home study. A cousin I barely knew asked about substantial family discounts. Even distant relatives suddenly remembered I existed, reaching out through social media with commission inquiries and eager partnership proposals. I met Uncle Ray again to discuss the increasingly awkward situation. They see dollar signs now, I said, frustrated and annoyed. Not me as a person, not my actual work. Just what I can do for them financially. He nodded knowingly, unsurprised. People reveal their true selves when there's something material to gain. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? I thought carefully about all those years of dismissal, every single cutting remark, every time they'd made me feel worthless and inadequate. Then I thought about the business I'd built despite their negativity, the clients who genuinely appreciated my work, the craftsmen I employed who treated this art with proper respect. My decision crystallized clearly. The next family dinner, specifically requested by Mom for an important family discussion, would definitely be interesting. I arrived prepared mentally. Everyone gathered around the familiar table, their faces showing forced casualness that didn't fool anyone. Mom served her famous roast carefully, keeping conversation deliberately light until dessert arrived. Then Theo launched confidently into his rehearsed pitch about collaboration, his words smooth and obviously practiced. I let him finish completely, watching Mom and Dad nod along encouragingly like a choreographed performance. When silence finally fell expectantly, I set down my fork very carefully. I'm going to be completely honest with all of you. I began, my voice calm but absolutely firm. For my entire life, you've treated my passion like an embarrassing phase, something I'd hopefully outgrow once I matured. You compared me to Theo constantly, made cruel jokes about my work, and never once asked if I needed support or encouragement. Mom opened her mouth to protest immediately, but I continued steadily. Now that you know Forge and Grain is successful and valuable, suddenly you all want my help, my expertise, my furniture at discounted rates. But here's the thing you need to understand. I built this company without your belief, without your support, and definitely without your approval or encouragement. And that's exactly how it's going to stay moving forward. Theo's face reddened noticeably. That's incredibly harsh, Paul. We're family. That should mean something. I met his eyes directly. Family supports each other through challenges. You taught me that real careers matter above everything. So now I'm focused entirely on my real career. The silence that followed was absolutely deafening and uncomfortable. Mom's expression shifted rapidly from surprise to barely contained anger. You're being incredibly ungrateful after everything we've done, she said coldly, her lawyer voice emerging. We raised you, provided everything you needed. I shook my head firmly. You gave me food and shelter, the basics any parent provides. Uncle Ray gave me genuine belief and encouragement. There's a significant difference between those things. Dad finally spoke after years of silence. Son, don't burn important bridges over hurt feelings and pride. His words, coming after so many years of saying nothing in my defense, felt especially hollow and meaningless now. I'm not burning anything at all, I replied evenly. I'm just being honest about our relationship. You wanted me to have a respectable job, to be serious about my career and future. Well, I am now. And serious business people don't give away their work to people who spent decades telling them they'd inevitably fail. I stood calmly, pushing back my chair with deliberate control. If you genuinely want custom furniture from Forge and Grain, you can commission pieces exactly like any other client. The standard prices are clearly listed on our website. I left without looking back once, Uncle Ray following close behind me. Months passed steadily. My business continued thriving beyond expectations. We opened an impressive showroom in Seattle and hired 3 more talented craftsmen through selective recruiting. A major tech company in San Francisco ordered expensive custom conference tables for their new headquarters building. A luxury resort in Montana commissioned 30 unique pieces for their newly renovated cabins. My work appeared regularly in prominent design magazines and industry showcases across the country. Meanwhile, I heard through Uncle Ray that things hadn't gone particularly well for my family recently. Theo's firm unexpectedly lost a major contract when a key client chose a competitor instead. His reputation took a noticeable hit in Portland's tight-knit architecture community, partly because his proposed collaboration with me fell through very publicly. Mom's house renovation stalled completely when her financing application got denied by two different banks. Dad's engineering firm downsized significantly, forcing his early retirement at 63. I felt absolutely no satisfaction in their struggles and misfortunes. Their problems weren't my doing at all, just unfortunate consequences of their own choices and bad timing. But I also felt zero obligation to rescue them from situations they'd created themselves. One Saturday morning, Uncle Ray visited my expanded workshop facility. We walked slowly through the busy space, watching my skilled team work on various projects simultaneously. "Your dad called me last week," he mentioned casually, examining a table leg. "Asked if I could talk to you about helping with some family financial situations." I stopped at a workbench, running my hand thoughtfully along a beautiful piece of cherry I was selecting for a demanding client's custom desk. "What did you tell him exactly?" Uncle Ray smiled slightly. "I told him honestly that maybe if they'd treated you with basic respect from the beginning, they wouldn't need to ask for help now." We stood together in comfortable silence, fine sawdust floating through bright sunbeams streaming through the tall windows. "You know what's actually funny?" I said quietly. "I don't hate them anymore. I'm not even angry now. I just don't need their validation or approval to feel successful. Turns out that's the most freeing thing of all." Uncle Ray squeezed my shoulder affectionately. "That's real wisdom, Paul. That's genuine growth right there, the kind that matters." I started an ambitious mentorship program at Forge and Grain, offering proper apprenticeships to young people genuinely interested in traditional craftsmanship and woodworking. Kids who'd been told repeatedly that working with their hands wasn't a real career path, that they needed expensive college degrees to matter in society, that their creative passions were just hobbies to outgrow. Watching them learn carefully, seeing their confidence grow steadily with each completed project, filled me with purpose beyond any family approval could possibly provide. One evening, after everyone had left for the day, I stood alone in my workshop surrounded by the fruits of years of dedication. The space smelled wonderfully of fresh-cut wood and linseed oil, familiar scents that meant home to me now. I thought about that 12-year-old kid in Uncle Ray's garage, discovering something that made him feel genuinely alive. That simple passion had built this empire, had created good jobs, had produced beautiful pieces that would outlast all of us. I pulled out my phone and recorded a heartfelt message for my growing social media followers. Don't let anyone measure your worth by their limited vision of success. What they dismiss as a waste of time might be the foundation of your legacy. Stay passionate, stay focused, and remember, the people who doubt you today might desperately need you tomorrow. But by then, you won't need them anymore. I posted it and locked up carefully, driving home past Mom's house where lights glowed in the windows. I didn't stop or slow down. I had nothing left to prove to anyone. Have you ever been underestimated by people who should have believed in you? Drop your story in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, and remember that your passion might just be the thing nobody expected to succeed. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and building something beautiful they can't tear down or diminish. Thanks for following my journey. Let's keep lifting each other up, because every dream deserves a real chance to grow into something amazing.